about portfolios at Virginia Tech a little bit and show you what we've been up to in the last year. I am Mark Zaldivar, and Tegan Summers is in the back shutting the door, and this is Will Fox, our star graduate student who does most of this fun technology stuff, so welcome. Just before we get started, I'm curious at sort of which level I'm going to be talking about our projects at Virginia Tech. How many folks in here have yet to sort of begin, or sort of they consider themselves at the beginner stages of working with portfolios? So early on in this, how many folks have adopted portfolios but sort of still getting started sort of in the middle somewhere? And then how many folks have been doing this for several years and they feel like they have a pretty good established background? Okay. All right, good. Well, it sounds like we're sort of all in the sort of mid to early stages with portfolios. So I hope we can give you kind of a encapsulated picture of how we work with portfolios, specifically OSP, on our campus, and we'll show you some of the newer projects in this session that we've been working on, but we're happy to answer sort of any questions about how we got started and what we've been doing all together. If you don't know much about Virginia Tech, we are located sort of in the western mountains of Virginia. It is a Research One institution, a land grant school. It's a fairly large school. We have more than 200 different majors, different degree programs, about 31,000 students, and it's growing as we speak, and about 1,700 full-time teaching faculty, which makes it an interesting place to do ePortfolios. My particular group, our ePortfolio Initiatives group, which we're now called the Active Technologies for Engaged Learning, we are focused on getting anybody at Virginia Tech to use portfolios and to really think about portfolios in different contexts, and there are many different contexts at Virginia Tech. When we first got started, we did a lot with assessment, and now we're really focused a lot on student showcasing and finding different ways for both sort of reflection, professional development, and assessment to occur on our campus, and we have a lot of different kinds of programs that work with that. So I'm here to just kind of give you a setup, and then I'm going to let these folks kind of show you the meat of what we've been working on. Just to kind of, again, give you a picture, we've been working with the open source portfolio since the very beginning, even before the three of us were around. We had several pilot projects in version 1 of OSP, which was stood independent from Sakai, even as early as 2005, 2004. Several dozen faculty on campus that were just interested in student learning with portfolios. And so they became a really nice test bed for us as we began in 2008 to really think about portfolios integrated with the learning management system, portfolios offered as sort of a central service on campus, and how each department might take some benefits out of that. And we started in 2008 with about 9 specific projects around campus. By the end of 2009, we were up into the 40s, and then now we sort of maintain around 70 to 80 different projects. And that's kind of an interesting thing, again, like I said, because we have all sorts of different. Some that are very focused on student professional development and post-graduation jobs and things like that. Others that are very focused on programmatic assessment or accreditation type projects. And other projects that we work strictly on sort of student showcasing of good work. And so there's many different kinds that we use. We are still pretty heavily invested in OSP. We have a lot of projects that are pretty invested in that matrix, and having assessment data and collections of student work in that matrix. We've done extensive work with our portfolio templates since we began. I think today we'll show you sort of our latest version of a portfolio template and what we've been doing with that to make it more usable by students. And we have several projects that combine the two together, and that's been a really key reward for us with using Sakai's OSP, was that we can actually get these assessment and showcasing tools to function together in a singular way, which works really well for our projects. So as I said, our heaviest usage for OSP is still matrices and assessment-related portfolios. I'll show you some of those today. We're happy, again, like I said, to talk about anything we've done over the last 5 years, 6 years. Wow, it's 6 years now. We've worked with education programs and engineering programs. We've worked with hard sciences, soft sciences, humanities, doing all sorts of different kinds of portfolio projects. Today, what we thought we'd sort of quickly focus on, since I know we only have about 45 minutes, are 4 of the more interesting projects we worked on over the last year with our group. So to begin with, there's 3 that really focus on the portfolio templates and in particular student showcasing, so how students can get video and image-based activities into a portfolio using the OSP. And then one that was a pretty extensive assessment project, which didn't involve students as much as faculty, organizing material and getting ready for sort of an accreditation review type process. So we'll show you that one from the biological systems engineering. And I think up first is the social studies, and Tegan is going to take over now and show you some of that stuff, and Will will come up and show you some of the technical nitty-gritty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And yes, some of the things that I really like to emphasize when I think about the portfolios that we do at our campus is that ability for faculty to have program assessment, to really facilitate their students' reflection on learning, and then for the students to also have some ownership and engagement with that, and maybe apply that to their professional development and that type of thing. And so what we have here is an example of one of these portfolios that does have all three of those levels and those layers of assessment, learning, reflection on learning, and professional development for the students. And it's very robust, and we've done quite a bit of sort of development to support this activity. So I'm going to show you a live example of this portfolio. This is our social studies education group. It's a master's program. Students work on their ePortfolios over the course of 2 years throughout this program, and they use their ePortfolio as part of their defense for their master's thesis. And so, as I said, it is a robust portfolio. The actual finished product might look something like this, where they have various tabs across the top, becoming a teacher, student growth. They have some pages that they are able to customize as well. So the resources page on this particular portfolio is something that the student was able to customize and kind of have, it could have been any sort of, could have been a minor or something like that. The Becoming a Teacher section is a place where the students are encouraged to reflect on their growth from student to professional educator, and to embed, evidence of their growth in that area. Student growth, again, we can see there's been a lot of thought into the prompt for these students of what they should put in this area. And they've been encouraged to have dynamic hyperlinks to the evidence showing their growth. We also have in this area, this is kind of the assessment component and the area for the program assessment. So our School of Education has various external accreditation requirements that they have to meet. And for the social studies education, they have the in-task standards, which I'm sure I should know what in-task means by this point. But they have various principles that they have to meet, principles 1 through 10, that are also sort of grouped under these different headings like the learner and learning, content knowledge, instructional practice, etc. And the students reflect on how they've met each of these standards, and they dynamically embed the evidence of how they've met these standards. And so each of these pages is going to be vastly different for each student. They can design, this particular student chose to have learning differences in the title, chose to include a description, and then wrote her own text and embedded images showing how she's met. She's met this. The teacher uses understanding of individual differences in diverse cultures, etc. So this activity for the students actually takes place in the matrix, in our instance of Sakai, in the matrix tool. So I don't know how many folks in here are familiar with the matrix tool. Maybe a good amount, hopefully. Good deal. So we've designed this matrix for the social studies ed folks. You can see here that they have the various principles. We've actually color-coded these two so that they know what this principles 1 through 3 are the learner and learning, and they can kind of click here and get some details as well. of what's expected for them. And then I have Corinne's matrix showing here, and you can see in the reflection column and in the reflection form, the reflection that she wrote, which matches with what we saw in the website presentation. So this is a really nice feature of the Sakai tools where we're able to pull the matrix data through and render it as the website. And that's something that is fairly sort of out of the box Sakai that most folks can do. But one thing that we've done that's a really nice level of development that we can thank Will for is if we go into the portfolio tool and I were to click on create new portfolio, you can sort of see, and I'll just select this template, how the students are able to create kind of this, the website. Let's see if I can scroll up here. So where they're able to, create a page like the Becoming a Teacher page. If we pop into this template and I click Add Edit Pages, you can see how that happens. And let's see. Oh, hold on. Here we go. Scroll. So what you have here is a fairly friendly user interface for these students, where they're able to click on the edit button here. They can actually, in some cases, I'm not sure if we have it built into this particular template, but if a teacher wants, they can actually drag and drop these titles, this Becoming a Teacher or Student Growth. They could actually drag them around and change the order across the top. In some instances, they're able to customize the titles. And it kind of depends on how a faculty member has designed the site. So they can kind of come in here and do, here's my welcome page. So I won't go into too much detail, and with all of these projects, we figured we would save, kind of just show you a little bit of how it all works, and then if there's time at the end and people have questions about a specific project, we could kind of go in and go into more detail. But this really is, students are able to customize the header and banner image just by double-clicking in that space, and then there I go again. They can add extra pages by clicking the plus button over here. And this really is a pretty substantial improvement to kind of the basic template ability and the ability for students to create the website presentations with the Sakai tools. So we wanted to share that with you all, and we'll certainly be happy to answer some questions or go into more detail about that as we go. Another thing that was actually that kind of incorporated some more development on Will's part was the ability to actually have two matrices that can come through to the website presentation. So we have the in-task matrix, and then students are also able to fill out another matrix called the standards-based instruction matrix here, and that can also be rendered on that website. And that took a little bit of work on Will's part. Oh, and the final thing I wanted to share with you about the Social Studies Ed portfolio. Let's see if I come in and just edit this one. Oh, maybe I can't edit that one. Well, let's see. I'll just create a new one again. The last thing to show you, and this is a nice thing, if you notice on Corinne's portfolio in the in-task tab, there's this section called Learner and Learning here, content knowledge, instructional practice, and this was a goal for the professor where he actually wanted to incorporate some meta reflection. So he had the students reflecting on each of Principle 1, Principle 2, but he also wanted them to then kind of do an uber reflection on the learner and learning and that whole category and how the various artifacts and evidence that they brought in related to the larger topic of that category. So we had to kind of work with him to make that happen. And so when we click on the in-task tab in the template here, you can actually click on Learner and Learning and add a meta-reflection in this space, which again took a little bit of development work on Bill's part. And I believe initially that was something that the professor made optional to his students, and now it's something he's really sort of requiring, and just to get them having multiple levels of reflection throughout. So I wanted to share with you that portfolio there. And then the second one that I'm going to discuss today is something for our architecture and design group. And this is definitely, as Mark said, one of our more interesting groups. I mean, it's from the very beginning, it's been an interesting group to work with. And it's very much one of the most unique portfolios we have on our campus. We spent probably at least 2 meetings, several hours on the font for where it says School of Architecture and Design. So it's been a really interesting process. These folks also pull reflections from a matrix through to their website presentation. But the other thing that's really impressive about the work that we've done and the work that Will's done really is this ability for them to incorporate the Lightbox image slideshow. So students are able, in something fairly similar to this kind of interface, and they're able to create very nice image galleries. And then they can actually sort of have galleries within galleries. They're able to incorporate captions for the images as well. This one in particular, I don't think has as many captions there. We can kind of flip through. And that's something, again, if people are interested in kind of going into more detail of how this is done, Will can kind of speak to that and show you a little bit more with that particular setup. So let's see. And then you can actually go here to the next and click to see the next gallery in that main list. So there's an ability to kind of move back and forth. And it was really important to these folks to be able to show the iteration of their ideas and the evolution of their sketches or their projects and things like that. So that was something that Will built in, was an ability to rearrange the order in a fairly easy, fairly intuitive way for the students. Yeah. Another example there. So I think that's all that I will show you at this point, and then for folks, if people have questions, we can go into more detail. No, go ahead and hand it over. Do you want me to put it back onto the PowerPoint?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see if I can figure it out. So the mouse just fell asleep. There we go. PowerPoint. Oh, and we can kind of.
Well, if you want to say anything about those previous.
Yeah. If you want to say anything more about the architecture.
The architecture, actually, this particular setup was based on David McPherson's design, and I did a slightly different way, but basics are the same. Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the technique setup for this. For this gallery stuff, I use the plugin, the jQuery plugin, which is called Lightbox Slideshow. So that's the main part of it. And next, I'm going to talk about the video embedding functionality. For those of you who have used the Sakai editor, if you're trying to use the video button that's there, it's going to strip out everything for security reasons. So if you are using any object tags, any iframe tag, it's going to be stripped out. So that button was not working. But our students, in fact, they need to embed a lot of stuff, like video that's uploaded by themselves, or like a video from YouTube. Some people want to embed like what's the
SlideShare
or like the photo gallery. What's that one? That's Flickr, yeah. They want to embed the entire galleries from there. So we kind of need to work out the embedding code for them. So what I did was. The Sakai editor is going to strip out any object, iframe text, but it recognizes the div text. So what I did was kind of hacking around there, give them a template to generate the code for the Sakai editor, and then in the browser use jQuery transform that diff into iframe or whatever to make the event happen. So how this works is, so this in a particular tool works for students when they upload their own, when they have the actual URL of the video. They just provide the URL of the video and then specify the height and the width of the video, and then it will generate the code for them. The other one, this is actually for any kind of a YouTube video, Prezi, stuff like that. So they will get their embed code of iframe embedding code and then paste it here. This tool will help them transform them into a diff kind of stuff, and then they can paste this into the C editor to be rendered correctly. So I'm not going to go into any details. If you are interested in this, after this we can talk. And now about the BSE assessment site. So this was a fairly unique group. Their needs, it's pretty interesting. So what they were doing was, first they need the faculty to upload their syllabus, the learning objectives for each course in a particular place to collect that data. And then they will kind of organize this data to sort it through in a particular way, and then present those data to a reviewing board to make decisions on the works of the faculty. So we create a matrix to collect the where the faculty members can upload their material. So here's the matrix where the faculty members upload their stuff. Those are on the left column are the names of the courses. So they will upload the material. They'll add a form, generate information, evidence, and then those learning objectives are particular to each course. So each form is different. Each course is different. They select items here, and then they select the sub criteria, and then they submit this form. Once they submit this form, there is they can look at the form. So this faculty uploaded 3 forms, and this is what the form will look like. So I created this kind of PDF look-in appearance for them to be easy reading. And then after all the faculty members uploaded their forms, I needed to collect all the data, aggregate the data, and then present it in a way that's sorted by the learning outcomes. So what I did was, currently I can scrap this data manually, this XML data manually, and then put in a giant XML file, and then create a transform schema to render those files, and then sort those by the outcomes and generate them by, like, this is like a PDF bundle, but it's presented in a website. So on the decision day, the review board will look at will take an outcome and then sift through this form, and then if the faculty have uploaded any attachment, it will be right here, linked there. So this is for the BSE site. Do you have anything to add?
No. Okay, well, did you show that? Yes, I was watching.
Well, I think the only thing that I would add is that this is for, I don't know if we actually said BSE is our biosystems engineering group. And so that might be useful, just for folks that might be interested in how engineering programs can utilize this. That the assessment is for their ABET accreditors, They have a fairly rigorous set of needs for their assessments.
And this is another one where faculty are using this matrix. Students are not inputting things. The faculty are using it to organize their process of collecting artifacts and evidence, and they use those forms along with the sort of potential of uploading artifacts into the matrix to generate sort of report type output for them to coordinate this effort over 7 to 10 years. Like they need to have very similar processes over those 7 years. So they use this matrix on their assessment day, gather the data they need, put that back into the matrix. Next year we run the duplicate, basically.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'll go back to the.
I mean, that's, I think, Tegan was showing some of the editor stuff too, and I think the general design of our editor, I don't know if there's anything you want to comment on there, just the ePPT type customized flow editor. If there's anything you want to say about what you put into that this year?
For the general editor, this year I added two major stuff. One is the video embedding capability, and the second is to put in multiple matrices.
Yes, yeah.
Those are the new stuff. For those of you, if you attended last year's session of ours, that was already presented there. But the new stuff is video embedding and.
Can you show that with what Tegan had opened up in Scala?
Okay, sure.
Specifically, like how the matrices are added now, because I know that's very different. But I think it's the very first step.
Okay. What is it, social studies?
Yeah.
They're 13, 14.
Okay. So before this template, previously the student need to add a matrix to their portfolio. They go through this button, the add supplementary button, which is sometimes confusing for students because they have to go to 2 different places to edit a page. So what I made it is now the student don't need to use this supplementary kind of button. They will just click this button and then they can select the matrix within this page. So what I did is, if we go into the edit page, the list of usable matrix will be here. So they'll just select any matrix that they want to use. And then this is sort of bug I'm still trying to figure out. If you're using Chrome and if you don't click this source view here, we update, something will be lost.
Strange.
Yeah, that is strange. That has to do with the property of the Sakai editor. It kind of, because when the update button was clicked, I wrote some code to automatically insert a line into this, and that does not work properly with Chrome. So you can see briefly flashes that line was inserted there. So this is how the matrix was linked to the template, different from previous versions of editors.
And that allows you to do that on any page, right?
Right, and if the faculty chooses to, you can, for example, if I add a new page, and then here's the type, page type. So normally it would be like just a normal page. The student will put text and images and whatever on this page. But if the need to be, it can be a gallery page, or it can be a matrix page. So if you set this to be a matrix page, then this actually kind of is not working properly. This should be a drop-down list.
Yeah.
So this probably will not work properly because of the browser issue. And when here it is. Okay, so if they select this page to be a matrix, the matrix selection dropbox will appear here. Yeah.
And I thought that was a really nice addition for us because flexibility in that template has always been our main limitation. Like when you design a template for a group, there's so much fixed content. Like we know where things are going to be in order to make the template function, but that's kind of counterintuitive to what the users and the faculty are wanting, which is some creativity, allowing each student to kind of do a few different things. what he's basically been able to do then is just dynamically on each page, you can determine what kind of content goes there, matrix content, image content, sort of normal text-based content, and the student or the faculty member can kind of guide the students to how to fill out that portfolio. It also is just nice, over the several generations of this portfolio template that we've been working on, it's getting more and more WYSIWYG, like what they see they're building, it happens right there on that screen. Some of the stuff like matrix content doesn't update dynamically on the screen, but anything else that they build within those editors will show up there, which is really nice, sort of comforting for the student to see the portfolio that they're building. That's really been one of our biggest limitations in working with the template structure, is that often, like he was saying, you're building a template here, you're filling out a matrix here, and you don't really have a good preview. This at least sort of allows things like that to happen. I mean, even the dynamic, like show them the top editor too. Like how I know we talked about that a little bit last year, but
right. Sometimes we got requests from students or from faculty that don't like the background, the header. So we made them, we give them some choices. Currently there are 5 themes. We give them, if they don't like any of them, they can customize those banners. We supply those, and then if they don't like any, they can upload their own. Either the banner image or the logo. So some students, they don't like any logo, so we'll just give them a blank logo. So it's right here.
Customizable on the fly, basically. Yeah, I'd say, so what else can we show you? Particular kinds of projects that you're interested in?
I probably missed, but usually the portfolio and when students or faculty they left the schools and then they want to have their own things. So is there any way import and export capabilities in there?
Do you want to speak to the import and export and sort of the limitations on the import and export?
Right now?
Yeah.
Right now, we don't use that functionality a lot. So if anybody would like to, you mean the portfolio or the template?
Yeah, when you download it, what happens?
The portfolio itself, it's a content of
Okay, so when you download, currently the only way that's not working is the way the image, the header image will not download properly because it's I guess the downloading mechanism kind of does not search through the images that's set through the CSS. So this image the background image was set through the CSS, and it was not downloading properly. That's the only thing that I know of that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the content.
The content will be on one single page.
Yeah.
So if the user download it will be
that's what we call it. It's a very functional download. It's not a particularly editable download.
Okay.
Right.
It does come down with a lot of XML information, and sort of because it parses out all the pages in one big long page. That's its main limitation in my mind. It is nice to be able to say you can download this as a functioning website, install it somewhere else, and it runs. We also leave it on the school servers so that people can access that, not for editing purposes, but just again for viewing purposes. About a year after graduation, technically they lose access to log in and do editing. But by that point, they may probably have a different platform that they're working on or something like that. So we really, especially with our senior students, start talking about owning their own materials and what they're going to do after graduation. So sometimes there's just other solutions that we'll put together.
And so your talk description, you described an industrial design course that involves students uploading images to matrix.
Okay. Yeah. That project got stopped in the middle because our leading programmer left. But I have done some part of it. I've done some part of it, so I will show you the uploading part. The uploading part is already done. It's just the aggregation and reporting part is not.
Yeah, and explain to them why we stopped them.
Yeah. I mean, when we wrote the proposal, we were at the beginning stages of that, and so then it didn't quite go all the way.
And we kind of know the technical specs for what we want to do with that, and there's just sort of another group on campus that asked us to not go all that early.
So because this involves aggregating user data from different users, so based on our current knowledge, we thought user matrix would be the best way to do it because we already started developing this matrix reporting tool, which essentially collects data through multiple matrices. So I set up the matrix upload. So here is the format design. When the user clicks edit, Here are they can upload an image. I'll show you how to do that. You just okay, so I can attach a copy here. Then it's right here. So those will be the images the users will upload, and then they can decide whether this goes to the public place. So if the one decides to do it, just click this part and then click update. So this part is already done. The reporting and aggregating tool is discontinued because our leading developer left.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what this is going to require is a lot of outside Sakai work, right? We're going to have to be able to basically process that matrix, draw those images and the status of those images sort of outside, and then create various kinds of web pages that would display those images up there. We really like that idea though because we're working with the architecture group. This is one of the first specific projects where they did want, cross-matrix displays of material that is mostly image. They're not looking at a lot of hardcore data or anything like that. They did want the professor to basically indicate the best work each year and then have a venue where they could just run a web page and kind of put up automatically best images of the year from their students. So we're still working towards that. But again, it's sort of because it requires a lot of outside Sakai development. We have a couple of teams that are involved in doing it, and we're hiring right now. So.
How important was the liking and disliking to the overall program?
That was the reason he started. The professor requested the whole project. It wasn't just, we knew we could create galleries. Like that, just staying within the template, we can create galleries and put up nice looking websites where they could even do like a collaborative type portfolio and get best student pictures together. The professor wanted an easy way through like a matrix interface to kind of just thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
I want that one in and I want that one in. So that was the real trick of getting Will to kind of think through how would you design a form where you could upload an image and still tag that image as you went in. So it seems like we keep pushing towards how to tag things in Sakai, basically without having that ability.
What are you planning to do with the OSP development?
Yeah, I was wondering if anybody was going to bring that up in this room. The conversation we had yesterday about the future of portfolios, I think our attitudes is going to be very similar to yours. We are very deeply with this, especially key assessment data tied to the matrix right now. And so we need to think out whether or not, we do have matrix reporting. We have tools that will allow us to convert matrix data into tables that's more readily accessible. Maybe that kind of output might be useful. I imagine I could see us running an instance of Sakai 2.9 is sort of where we're stopped right now, and probably will be for the future. So we may just leave a limited assessment sort of running, basically implementation running, so people can have access to that matrix data, and then find an alternative solution from there too. We are sort of in that we're in this really interesting place right now where, as the sort of OSP community winds down on development of this tool, our demand is not slowing down. If we're getting with the BSE project, many other programs saw what Will had created and the way that he saw that stuff. We've had 4 new programs want to do that this summer. So I'm kind of trying to balance that message. We want to keep working on this assessment stuff, but the tool itself, a year or two, we have to find another alternative, basically. Great question. I think we're all asking that question right now. What else out there can we show you? So a good 5 minutes. Say any other specific disciplines that you'd like to see? Like we do sort of different variations of this. Most of our OSP work is assessment oriented.
Well, one thing we can do, if you wouldn't mind, Will, would you just pull up the atel.telos?
Okay.
If anybody's just interested in seeing more examples or learning a little bit more about us or getting into, contact with us after the session is over, this is our kind of our blog website. And so we do have our, the gallery and some other information about ourselves, as well as we do a student showcase every year, and we sort of ask students from all around campus to submit ePortfolios, and we have different categories, and we have some video. We have the video from 2 years ago. We're still processing the video from this year, but we do kind of have that embedded where you can sort of see students talking about their portfolios. So
Yeah.
that might be just a useful resource for you all.
So yeah, certainly if you want to talk about anything portfolio that's not necessarily OSP related, happy to answer those
That's
questions
right.
as well. We do quite a bit with faculty development, what we call our ePortfolio development network, which is teams of faculty on campus that have been doing this a few years that can kind of share resources with each other. And a lot of the student work, like Tegan showed, working off of other successful models around the country, the student showcasing has been a huge benefit to us to get faculty and other students exposed to really good portfolios, as well as, she's like, go away from this, as well as,
Go home, go
Is this
home.
link correct?
which one?
The contact us, like if you click on.
Okay, I'll just.
Yeah, and then the
There
other
should be
thing
where
is
you can contact
the
us.
e-mentors, which is 4 or 5 undergraduate. They're not particularly from any one discipline. They're just people that were interested in portfolios, and now they've become sort of a front line for us to talk with other students and faculty. They sit in the library. They're accessible online through this website, and they just provide sort of frontline help for students, as well as working on reflections, getting students to think about technology options. In addition to OSP, we have a WordPress instance on campus. We're finding a lot of take-up and people using WordPress for portfolio-type material, as well as students use whatever they like. We don't have a dictum that says everybody has to use OSP. So one of the benefits of the student showcase and the e-mentors is they kind of tell us what students are using. How many of them are using Scholar, our sort of Sakai-based instance, how many are not, and so we can get a good sense of that as well. And there are still lots of people using OSP. It's not like it's not an equivalent tool. A lot of people like the ease of access to all the resources that are already up there in the school system. They're doing it for advisors, so they like sort of password type idea. And then others that are sort of just doing it for creative self purposes might use WordPress or another tool. But that's we just help them navigate all of that. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you
Appreciate
all.
it. If you have any questions, do let us know. Okay. Sort of.
Yeah, you should have a rough idea of what this what percentage of the program that the all the programs. Yeah. But yeah. Okay. Gallery on the side. Most hands you get a relatively separate that out. Yes, yeah. I mean, it's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of them right. Right. Yeah. Anyhow. Yeah. Nice work. Yeah. But a lot.